Captain, before that, I need to tell you something. After the perestroika, a group called Red Justice Warriors had found some supporters along old communists and some radical army officers. They used to believe in the doctrine of a greater Russian empire. According to this doctrine, Russia was supposed to be undisputed dominant power in the world. Any other power resisting this ideal should have been punished or terminated. To them, the US was no exception to that rule. They were illegally structured. Nobody knows who started and organized this movement in Russia. It was also secret how they financed this organization. The Russian intelligence was surely aware of this group. Some people even put forward the Secret Service founded it. But there was no evidence supporting this allegation. In 2009, the Russian police stormed one of their meeting spots and arrested the leaders. To many, this illegal organization finally collapsed. After the Cold War era, the world switched to a multipolar state from the bipolar one. Nevertheless, Russia never wanted to believe that. All the people around the world agreed that the Cold War was over, except the Russians. They believed that the war just gave a break, and during that break, they must have made use of the time more efficiently, by the time the Cold War is on again. After the Iraq War, Russia started feeling the breath of the US on its neck. Kind of. The US trespassed into its privacy. The Americans apparently went into its backyard. Some Russians regretted not rushing to the help of Saddam before the US Army took Iraq over. All while the Russians were in those mixed feelings. In 2014, the US started a military campaign against another country in Russia's backyard. That country was supporting terrorism and hurling threats at the US aided countries in the region. That military attack lasted for 1 week non-stop. Before this attack, Russia had already declared it would not tolerate any assault against the subject country. The US air attack took place in a time when nobody expected. After that attack, many ultra-nationalist Russians took to the streets and put up large demonstrations. They thought the US government ridiculed theirs. That's why. Their government was supposed to give a severe reaction against the US. They recalled their Washington ambassador to Moscow. The Russian foreign minister pointed out, "The US government went beyond our red line. We already declared that our regional ally is our red line, and nobody could dare to attack that country. And now we are facing this challenge. Nobody could ever expect us to keep silent. We reserve the right to retaliate, and we will respond soon." The world was thrown up into a new turmoil. Everybody was waiting for the moment when Russia would respond. The captain did not look tired of telling all that had happened. However, he stopped telling and came closer to Jack. "Jack, do you remember the apartment you live?" Jack, "Of course. Why?" Captain, "Tell me about your neighborhood." Jack did not expect such a commonplace question upon the entire story he had just listened. "Well, it's a nice place called Sheepshead Bay," Jack said. Captain, "Do you have any friends there?" Jack, "Bah, what a question. Surely I have friends there. Especially, I have good friends in my building." Captain, "Jack, tell me about your friends. I have a purpose at asking." His words worried Jack more. He did not get why the captain was so curious about his friends. Jack replied, "Our Super Rasim is a good friend of mine. We played soccer once in a while. Also there is an old man Vadim. He's my next door." Captain, "What does Vadim do for his living?" Jack, "He stopped working as an accountant after he lost his son. He does temporary work to buy food and pay his rent. Sometimes we go fishing to Coney Island when it's shiny." Captain, "He never had a son." Jack, "What?" Captain, "Did you ever meet his son before he passed away?" Jack, "No, I moved to the apartment after he died." The captain replied, "You never saw Vadim when he was an accountant, right?" Jack, Yes." Captain, "Listen, Jack. That guy's real name is Anatoly Morozov. He was kicked out of the Russian Special Forces due to his racist acts. He killed another Russian soldier of Uzbek origin. According to him, it was a privilege to become a Russian. Not everybody should have been called a Russian. Another thing, he was one of those so-called Red Justice Warriors. Remember I told you the Russian police seized the members of that faction? Anatoly escaped from the police somehow and showed up in Brooklyn 2 years after the police arrest. It was 2011. That's the same date you moved to his next door. He told you that false story since he was just after a plot. We did not know how he showed up in the US. Can you tell me a little bit more about this guy? I mean, his acts, manners? Jack: To tell you the truth, he was different, more in his own world. He did not used to go out often, nor was he social at all. Even my other Russian friends did not like him at all. They thought he was acting like he was hiding something from others. So, tell me, what is that made him so important? Captain: He planned large-scale violent bombings all over the U.S. He talked some young, inexperienced people into believing the U.S. would destroy the Russian existence someday in the future. These young guys did not have regular jobs. He offered some money when they helped him accomplish his plot. His plot was basically exploding bombs simultaneously in 12 different cities in the U.S. He had already found 12 people to carry out his evil plan. Unfortunately, he did. After those violent bombings, the whole U.S. was dragged into chaos. That day, people started to hear death news of many innocent people all over the U.S. It was worse than 9/11. During the chaos, Russia fired several nuke bombs. The targets were particularly picked. "Stop it," said in a decisive tone. "I don't want to hear any more of it." Jack got sad after he heard the national disaster. After a short pause, Jack continued. "Okay, now tell me, how can I help you stop those psychomaniacs?" Captain asked, "Remember the day we brought you here?" Jack: "Yes." Captain: "That day was 2 days before those detonations happened. Anatoly wants to come together and make sure everything was in order. And that meeting happened in his apartment. You were next door." Jack: "So?" Captain: "So far, nobody uncovered how the 12 bombers went to the bomb spots and where they spent time before the bombing that day. If we can find out how each assailant moved to their locations, we have a chance to stop them on the way before they do their attacks." Jack: "Okay. What part is mine in the game? I still did not get it." Captain: "Jack, you are one of the few people who can enter his house. That makes you pretty valuable. If you can put some bugging devices in the meeting room of his house before they meet, we will be able to eavesdrop on their conversation and find out the details of the scheme." To be continued.